Okay, next up is going to be Concordat Online by C.R. McPhail. It'll be 376 pages, $3.09, which is a odd price point. It's a bit wonky and limited, though. Here's the author's description. In the 24th century, humans throughout the solar system are connected by Virtunet, an internet provider and media mogul that spans the Gulf of Space. While once used for politicking between planets, it is now readily available to all. Virtunet offers highly immersive VRMMOs and media. Concordat Online follows the adventures of a player known as Blue Opensky as they enter the game for the first time. Everything is going well, he forms a bond with his first monster and is leveling steadily with their friends. When the other players get involved manipulating the shadows, Blue and his friends are charged with defeating them, but every action has consequences. Now the starter area of the Meadowsedge is under the threat from a group of rogue NPCs that out-level Blue and his friends. Will they stand and fight, or will they start again in a less problematic zone? Okay, there you go. First off, that is not a great novel description. That's a separate issue. So this is a story that the author actually wrote in the podcast about. He's like, I wrote this thing. Go check if you want to check it out. Here's a link to Amazon. Here's my story, essentially. I had an open spot. So I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Give it a shot. It is about a year old since it was published. It has about, I think 13 reviews. I think it actually is, it is better than that. I think more people should give this a shot. It has some interesting, it tries to be unique. For the most part, it is a slice of life story set into a fantasy VRMMO. So there's nothing necessarily groundbreaking with that. The thing that does differentiate is that it does have pet battles. So it has like this Pokemon aspect of taming monsters out in the wild and using them as battle pets. The main characters in the MMO, him and his friends, they fight with their monsters. And so there is a very interesting gaming mechanic in the story, and that not only is the main character able to develop his own class, he's also able to evolve his pet's class, and depending on what kind of pet he chooses to getting, that secondary group role can have a huge variety of effects and compounds. Plus, his own personal magical development is very dependent upon the pet he chooses, because he'll get one of those pets elemental class and ability class sections. So if like the monster has like lightning, earth, and plant life, whatever it is, he might get one of those three as his own magical ability. And so choosing the pet you want becomes a lot more important, because it really does affect his own kind of RPG class development, or his own, there's no classes, but his own RPG playstyle element. And so there's a huge variety of monsters and abilities and classes and pets. And so it was very interesting to see them all kind of come together. And that's probably the most unique aspect of the story. I think the things that are probably stopping people from giving this a shot, for one, doesn't say Liberty anywhere in the title, in the story, or gamelet. So people might not know that this is actually a Liberty gamelet story, because they remember that being the case for me when I first saw it a year ago. It was like, is this, I'm not sure. I guess I'll toss it on there because it is a virtual reality and stuff. But I never ended up reading, because if I have like 24 titles come out for a week, and one of them, and this one doesn't say Little Bit Your Game, I'm less likely to give it a shot. Two, the novel description has issues. It's not super engaging. And so just like getting people interested in the story is probably an issue. But I want to say it is worth it if you have some free time, or if you just like pet. I think you especially like it if you like a Pokemon battle pet aspect to a story. The other parts of the story where the main character is just kind of venturing an MMO, I've seen it before. This one doesn't do anything particularly too, again, groundbreaking with this. It does this pretty solid job of like having at least a reasonably interesting main character. Group banter exists here. The battles are fairly regular, and so you get to see some pretty good fight scenes. I'm going to say it is fairly casual. Again, there is no like end of the world plot. There's no AI here that's trying to take over the universe. Nobody's trapped in the game. So it really is the main character going on like mini adventures in this VRMMO setting. And some of those adventures are really kind of neat. I thought the use of like the ghosty castle was like, don't get to see that very much. And the author does kind of give you the kind of end story arc in the novel description of him being opposed by other, I think it says other characters, so I don't want to spoil it too much, but like, oh, that end part was fairly decent as far as like its setup and its execution. I want to say that one of the few things I was kind of disappointed in the story about it was probably how that final end quest storyline ended up resolving. It on the whole, the main character does some really good RPG progression in all the quests and everything. He becomes more powerful. He learns the system. He plans his fights out. He kind of develops his character and what kind of players he wants. Very good stuff. At the end of the story, that last quest line isn't unfortunately resolved by the main character. I felt slightly disappointed in that because on all the other quests and all the other parts of the story, the main character is sure to be the hero. He's sure to be the one, or within his group at least, of like figuring out the problem solving. You get good character progression, that was said. But that very last quest line, which was trying very hard to be epic, it just kind of peters out a little bit. The big final resolution was played out not by the main character, but a third party group kind of intervening. And I kind of get, as far as like a game mechanic perspective coming in, the main character is facing off against enemies who are double his level. And so it should be a big challenge for him. The insertion of a third party to resolve it, though, felt a little, I want to say cheap, or felt like a little disappointing, and the main character just didn't figure something clever out, or didn't use mechanics to overcome those odds, or maybe set up the odds differently. Instead, a third party comes in, does resolve things very nicely, and then lets the main character go on for potential other adventures. But that resolution felt a little bit like the author was getting a little bit of a writer fatigue. It's like, okay, this thing's going on pretty long. I'm going to resolve this thing, the end, to a degree. And that's what it kind of felt like. So that's kind of the only slight disappointing thing for me. Other than that, fairly good story. Again, overall, it's a good story with very casual kind of pacing. It was very easy to read. I kind of plowed through this thing almost in one or two sittings. So the writing style was very easy to progress through. And again, if you like pet raising, if you like a kind of Pokemon-esque aspect to the story, I think this is a pretty good family read. It's a family-friendly read anyway. So if you like that stuff, I think you'll enjoy it. I had a good time with it. It gets a 7.4 to 10, which is like just slightly below, like, middle of the road good for me, because again, I had slight issues with the ending, how that final plot line resolved. But other than that, had a good time with it. So I think it does deserve a little more recognition, or at least a little more than 13 reviews. Like I feel like more people will have enjoyed it than that, at least. So this is a good story. I had a good time with it. That's a score 7.4 to 10 for Concordat Online.